Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber. You know me as host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, but when I'm not interviewing world-class guitar players, I'm busy helping clients with their marketing. In fact, since March of 2000, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. I even authored a book about my experience called How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be honest with your answers. Are you generating fresh new qualified leads on a daily basis? Is your website generating enough sales? And if not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it predictably and reliably making you several multiples of what you're spending on it? And lastly, are you consistently communicating with your email list? Or do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? If you need solutions for these marketing problems, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show. Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. I'm here with not only a tremendous guitar player and a super successful guitar player, but a hell of a nice guy who's literally crawled out of his deathbed, out of his sick bed, I should say, to be with us today. So I really appreciate it. I have George Marinelli with us. George's been playing guitar in Bonnie Raitt's band since 1993. That's 25 years almost, which means he's a hell of a good guitarist since Bonnie's no slouch herself. He was fortunate enough to start playing recording sessions in L.A. at a fairly young age, and he played in a band that he played with any band that would have him at the time, and he took gigs, any gigs he could manage to find. An early recording he was on went to the top 5, and as a result of that, more work started coming his way. He kept juggling being in a bunch of different bands with session work, and he always kept as many balls in the air as I could, which is one of the reasons why I like him just naturally as a person, because he's got a good work ethic. And he still plays sessions, produces independent albums, and he's writing and recording his own EP, which should be out later this year. Some of the artists he's recorded and toured with besides Bonnie are Bruce Hornsby The Range. He was actually one of the founding members, and we'll talk about that. Billy and the Beaters, James Taylor, the Dixie Chicks, Willie Nelson, Vince Gill, Ray Charles, Art Garfunkel, Robert Earl Keen, Winona Judd, Cliff Richard, Peter Cetera, Sean Colvin, Jackson Brown, Colin Hay, and many more. Man, you've been with some songwriters, huh?
Yeah. And that's, I like that because I'm a song guy. So that's a priority for me.
Well, man, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show, George.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, you're originally from New York City, and I was curious what prompted you to move out to L.A. That's not a natural thing for us guys that grow up in New York.
It wasn't my choice. I was a kid. My folks decided to move from Staten Island. Yeah, my dad lost his job. He couldn't find work, and he was offered a job. He was a longshoreman, so he was offered a job on the docks in L.A., so he took it, and we moved out there.
Man, you talk about work ethic. Those guys.
Oh, my dad, absolutely. My dad busted his hump. He worked 2 and 3 jobs at times, no skills, no education, just a first-generation Italian guy, and he could move things and carry things around, so that's what he did for a living, yeah.
Do you think that's where you got your work ethic?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad was never late for work a day in his life, not one day. I could see where he worked from my window when I was a kid, and he would leave an hour early. I said, Dad, why are you going to work so early? He'd go, well, what if I get a flat? I said, you got to walk it in 15 minutes, Anyway, he busted his hump, and they taught it. My mom and dad both taught us real good about work, yeah.
It's funny, that little thing, being there early, when all my kids started working, I said, man, if you do 2 things, I said, if you show up early
right,
and shut your mouth, I said, you'll be you'll do really no, seriously, just show, because especially when you first, you're young and you don't have any skills, none of them show up at all. But if you show up early, it's like, whoa.
It's true. And I always try and, excuse me. I always try to, I've accidentally opened something here. Okay.
No worries, man.
I always try and get to a session. If I'm doing a session, I try and get there, get all my stuff set up, and have at least 15 minutes to just chill, relax, get my head straight, and drink coffee before, And so many people show up and they set up. If it's a 10 o'clock downbeat, they're turning their amp on at 10 seconds before downbeat. And it's just, I just think if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah, I agree with you. And most of the artists and producers, I would imagine, feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely they do, I think. They like that.
You've released, let's talk about your stuff first, because you've released 3 albums on your own, and I just want to talk about a few of your cuts because I had some questions on them. Your voice, is that you singing on that Love Can Be Like That from the Believe album?
Yeah, I'm singing everything.
Man, you know what? It's so funny because your voice is great, and I've talked to you, but your speaking voice and your singing voice aren't the same. Not that your speaking voice is bad, but it's just it's different when someone sings and they have a really nice voice, and you're not tying the two together.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I have a hard time listening to it, but thank you.
Do you sing backup with Bonnie?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man! She's
almost every song.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a good voice. Bonnie Raitt's not putting someone up there that can't sing, man. You know that.
She's the voice. Jeez.
What was there a backstory to this song?
Which one?
To Love Can Be Like That?
Not really. I wrote a couple of these things with a good friend named Rich Wayland, who's a really good lyricist, and that's one of them. And so is Girl in the Fire Escape. And I'm trying to think if I had the music first. I think I might have had the music first. And he and I work pretty quickly, which is really cool. I like that. I've written with other people, and it's usually a tooth pull. It's a long, absurd process. And it seems to me, I know Lennon and McCartney said they used to spend 2-3 hours on a song at most. So Rich and I do it pretty quickly. And so I believe I had the music to that first, and he came up with most of the words. And we go back and forth because he also plays piano and I write lyrics. So it's not pure me music and him lyrics. But yeah, that's I guess the backstory is he maybe saw some news item or something or other about a woman who was going to shoot herself or jump off a fire escape after she shot her abusive husband or something like that. That's what the song's about.
That's Girl on a Fire Escape, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm mixing them up.
No, thank God. Thank God.
That's Girl on the Fire Escape. Love Can Be Like That. I don't remember. Honestly, it's a love song. What can I say?
Talk about Girl on the Fire Escape, because the beginning of that song, man, if you told me that was the Rolling Stones, that opening lick is like Keith Richards 101, man. It sounded great. Where did that come from?
I like the Stones. I love Keith Richards. So yeah, I was basically in a Stones mood, and I think I showed it to Rich, and he or he might have had the words first to that one, to tell you the truth. But anyway, yeah, we wrote that together, and I like Keith, especially like Keith's first solo album, and he used he'd put some acoustic guitar in a rocker. He does that really well without it sounding like a folk song. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's So I was basically going for a Stonesy kind of thing.
Were you playing a telly in that opening lick?
Oh gosh, probably playing a telly. I try and mix up telly, Strat, and not use the same guitar and the same amp on because it's me I'm playing the drums, I'm bass, everything.
Oh wow,
all the vocal. Yeah. I started as a drummer. But when we moved to California, we lived in an apartment, and my folks said, "You're not getting drums, forget about it." So that's when they got me. My mom saved up her trading stamps and got me an acoustic guitar out of a catalog. Yeah.
S&H, yeah, I remember that, man.
S&H, yeah, that's exactly what.
Do you play drums at home, or in like your home studio?
Yeah. Here, look.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I leave set up and I work on new songs and they're all mic'd up and everything. So I just
it's interesting.
I do it. I like it. So many great drummers here. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's so many great drummers in town. People say, why in the world don't you just get those guys? But first of all, I like doing it. And sometimes I know what I want to hear is different than what they're going to play because Nashville drummers all sort of play the same thing.
Yeah.
They play kind of cliche things. And I like certain music that I've listened to and they don't necessarily know how to play reggae. If it's a reggae song like Love Can Be Like That.
Sure.
Things like that. So I listen to a lot of that stuff and I know what the drummers should be playing. So it takes time. I can't just sit down and, do it in one take or anything. Believe me, Pro Tools makes it easier for me to play drums.
Well, it's interesting though. Like, I interviewed, a couple of Jeff Beck's guitarists, and they said one of the things that Beck is big on, he said, if you have if your drummer's solid, you got everything because that really drives the bus.
Absolutely. But I think there's more to than just being solid because a lot of drummers, there was a stage of, just play the groove, just keep the beat, don't do anything. And it's like, well, boom, chop, boom, chop, boom, chop. You can get a machine to do that. And it's gonna be more steady than you are. I like guys who I really love, and most drummers don't like him. I'm crazy about Stuart Copeland from the Police.
Most drummers don't like him. He's a phenomenal drummer.
He's a phenomenal drummer, and the way where he puts it, and he doesn't crash downbeats and things like that. He crashes before or after the downbeats, and just the choices he makes and his dynamic, the way it's so inventive and. Somebody, he rushes a little. So what? So does Charlie Watts at times.
Another great drummer.
Yes, absolutely. And Ringo, thank God he was just knighted. Fantastic. So I know we're talking more about drums now than guitar, but
no, that's all good. But I was shocked to hear. I'm shocked that drummers don't like. To me, he's like I want to say the Steve Vai but he's like a very advanced, creative guy, Stuart Copeland.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Technically proficiency, like not a lot of people just can do what he does.
No, you're absolutely right. And on top of that, he's a very musical guy. He writes movie scores and things like that, and does all. He's done TV shows and things like that. The music for television shows. So. And
he's a bright guy too. I've heard him speak many times. Real smart guy. Really smart guy.
Yeah. Very articulate. Yeah.
So my next question, I bet you the answer is yes. I had a question. You have a song called "I Ain't Done Yet" from Wild Onions, and my question was: is that you singing all those background tracks?
Yeah,
I had a funny feeling because I listened to it several times, and I said, I think this is George. That was pretty cool though how you did that.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know how I did it, but yeah, I did. It's me.
Well, you did it, man. It sounds great. It sounds really cool.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You were one of the founding members of Bruce Hornsby and The Range. I was curious how that whole thing came about.
I was playing with the drummer, John Molo, in another band. It's, here you go, cross-pollination. That's why young players should play as much as they can with as many people as they can. So anyway, John Molo had gone to Miami University with Bruce Hornsby and introduced us, and Bruce said, hey, you want to play in some demos I'm making? I said, yeah. And I listened to his songs. I really liked his songs a lot. And so we got to be pals. We were pals before the band. And he has a really warped sense of humor as I do, and we like to play practical jokes and crank phone calls. And we would spend hours and hours, before the band and after. And then one day he called me and said, hey, man, you want to put a band together? And I said, well, I'm already in 5. One more ain't going to hurt. So, yeah, we did it. And we played clubs around L.A. and stuff like that. And, yeah.
That's so, and that was it. So just like any other band, it just happened that band took off like crazy.
Yeah, it was. Every story is different. It's like how labels got interested in all that crap, and who passed and who didn't, and it's not a unique story, but it was good. It was. I'm really proud of those 3 albums I did with that band, and we toured a lot, and we sold sold some records. I made a living for really the first time in my life. I mean, a decent living.
Was it weird for you? I would imagine at some point in time you had to like cut your other activities out and only pretty much, you know, full-time range and that's it. Was that weird for you, I bet?
Trying to remember. Yeah, it probably was, but I mean, but by the same token, it's not that big a sacrifice to you know, cut some demo work loose or whatever, things like that, or playing some club where you end up owing the bar more than you made that night. You know, to go on the road, and we were, like I say, the first tour we were opening for Steve Winwood, we were opening for Huey Lewis and the News, we were opening for John Fogerty, and then we started headlining, and we literally sold millions of albums. So, and playing big places and headlining, and so it was, it was a sacrifice worth making. And when we weren't on the road, I would go back to doing other stuff. Yeah.
Well, because I know, like, I'm the same way, man. I always like to have side hustles, and I always, like, you know, I feel better being busy than not. And in a good way and in a bad way, sometimes it's hard to, you know, when one of your things takes off, it's like, you know, it's in a sense a leap of faith, but it's not your comfort zone, because if you're like a perennial hustler, and then all of a sudden you're like you're still working, just it's almost like you feel guilty, like I'm not working 24 hours. I hope, you know, it's like you got to give yourself permission to do that. I do anyway. It's tough to sort of break away when you're that, you know, driven sort of.
Well, that's what frustrates me about being on the road, even now. And I'm not like this type A hustle personality at all. But if I'm going to play music, I want to play music. And being on the road, it's 22 hours a day of not playing music. Yeah. Seriously, and days off you're not playing. And so it's like all of that to go up on stage, play a couple hours, and then you're done. As opposed to, like, if I go in my studio, I can work 3 or 4, you know, there are times I go in my studio and don't even realize I've been in there for 10 hours straight working on studio material. So it's one of those things, you know, and I'm probably like you. I just get bored doing the same thing all the time. Yeah. I really do. That's why I've always liked studio work. I like writing. I like doing my own stuff. I like being a sideman for other people. And, you know, and I like producing these little low budget indie records I get to do now and then. And that's always fun. Yeah, I really like doing that a lot. I've been doing it less and less simply because we've been on the road so much the last 6-7 years with Bonnie. It's been really an intense schedule.
But I challenge you when you say you're not a type A. You don't do 5 things at once if you're like not a type A personality, man. Come on.
I don't do that many things at once anymore. I've actually been really honing my veg skills. You know, I've been
good for you.
I've been perfectly at peace, getting on the couch and watching a lot of football and things like that.
That's
awesome. We've been off since September, and I've been really enjoying, you know, the downtime. I just in the last few weeks thought, okay, I'm gonna put out another collection of songs. So
good, man. I'm happy for you. I got to get to that stage. I do, man, because I'm like, you know, this is really sad. On Thanksgiving, my kids all came over, and I decided I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to just hang out with the family today and do nothing. So I said to my son, it was funny, my older son, I said, man, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. He goes, why? I said, because you bought your laundry over and you actually did it yourself. Mom's not doing it for you. And he goes,
this must be the day.
Yeah. And he goes, no, Dad, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. I said, why? He goes, because you actually didn't work today. And I was like, ooh. I said, you got me, man. Totally true. I said, you're 100% right. So yeah, I need to get more in that zone.
That's funny.
For
Cough drop?
Later. Thank you. Talk about some of these artists that you've worked for. I mean, you talk about great songwriters and great talents. If you could talk about maybe how you got the gig and the nature of the engagement, a cool story, and if you happen to learn anything or any takeaways from working with these folks, I'd be curious and interested. Ray Charles.
Ray Charles, we were, excuse me, I was in L.A. rehearsing with Bonnie for something or other, and probably a tour or something. And then she calls me at the hotel and says, hey, I'm going to go do a duet with Ray Charles. Would you be interested in coming with me? And 2.5 seconds later, I said, okay, yeah, sure, why not?
Wow. Yeah, what the hell?
So that was a total gas. It was an interesting story because he was near the end. Did we lose? Are we live?
No, we're live now. Yeah, we lost each other for a second. It was kind of weird.
Okay. So we go to the studio, and we go to Ray's studio in kind of South LA, and it's old school studio, old school. It's like the booth is above and looking down at the performance school. You know, you see pictures of Abbey Road when the Beatles were recording. It's that. The old black and white tiles that you expect to see in an old school or on the floor. And it was great. And so I didn't meet Ray. I mean, he came in and we started, he wasn't there and Bonnie wasn't there. I get there early and I run the song down with his band. You know, they're showing me, and there's like 4-page chart, which I can't read, but I could see the chords and I got good ears. So anyway, we run through it and I'm thinking, man, some of these chords are, I know Bonnie, and these chord changes, this lush crap isn't going to fly on this song. It was an old country R&B song. I can't remember the name of it, but it's on the. At any rate, Ray comes in and says, you know, we run through it, and they immediately start sifting out those chords that were objective, and they're singing it together. And I've got my stereo headphones on. And all of a sudden, Ray Charles is in one ear and Bonnie Raitt's in the other ear. You talk about chill time. I'm telling you, I mean, it was, my God, I'm probably the only one of 4 people on earth who's going to ever experience this. And then he was really in bad shape. So he took a break, right? He took a break. I still hadn't been introduced to him. He took a break. He comes back about an hour or so later. Meanwhile, I'm getting to hang out with Phil Ramone, who's producing, was a hell of a guy and hilarious. And so for like 2 more hours, we're eating and he's telling stories and we're just going back and forth with the band and the engineer. And he was just the nicest dude. And, you know, you don't expect a guy like a bit foul mouth. It was hilarious. It was just the stuff he came out with. Then, okay, Ray's coming back.
In front of Bonnie? He was like that in front of Bonnie? Yeah. Bonnie's easy going with that?
She's no prude, believe me. So Ray comes back in. And Phil Ramone was so instinctive and astute. As soon as he saw Ray, he hits record. He hadn't even gotten to the piano yet. He hits record. And Ray sits down at the piano and goes, here's how I want this intro to go. He starts playing. Nobody stopped. We all played. They sang it, and that's the record.
Wow.
Yeah, I think she punched a word or two. And so those vocals, Ray's vocal, and basically 99.9% of Bonnie's vocal, and the band, that's the record. And then she overdubbed her slide guitar. I hung out and she overdubbed her guitar.
Wow.
And then, excuse me. Sorry, Craig.
That's all good, man. I'm sorry. See what a commitment. Even he's lying. He's a type A. Even he's committed to doing interviews at a sick bed.
Where's my doctor? Yeah, these cough drops are really doing the cough drops are inducing cough. Anyway, so after the track is cut, Bonnie introduces me to Ray finally. And I have a little handheld camera, and I'm a kind of, photography. That's my other hobby. So I just hold this camera up like this, and I get a picture of Bonnie and Ray and me. Long story short, I get an email from the management office about a month later. Hey, how'd those pictures come out? I said, pretty good. You want them? I cropped me out of it. That picture ended up on the album, ended up in Time Magazine, Mix Magazine, I think the New York Times, the LA Times. I mean, that was the picture. Yeah, all of a sudden this picture I just sort of held. I didn't even, it was facing the wrong way. It's basically a selfie before the word was invented. and so that ended up being in Mix Magazine, LA Times, New York Times, what else? A bunch. And it was used to hype the new album. So that, for 5 minutes I was an actual
photographer. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
I didn't put Bonnie on here, but how'd you get the gig with Bonnie?
I don't know. I know how. I was playing a nightclub in LA called the China Club. There was one in New York and one in LA, and I was part of the house band. And this was in the late days of Bruce Hornsby and The Range, right? And so the bass player was Hutch Hutchinson, who is still Bonnie's bass player and was at the time. And Tony Bronigal was the drummer, who is Bonnie's previous drummer. Anyway, Hutch and I got to be good friends, blah, blah, blah. That gig went on for a while, and it was really fun. So in 91, I decided my time was up with Bruce. So I quit. And the next morning,
any reason that you could talk about that if it's appropriate?
I will just put it very lightly that it was some musical stuff and some business stuff that we weren't going in the same direction anymore.
Thanks. Fair enough.
Yeah. And then, so I called Hutch the next morning and I said, Hutch, I want to be in Bonnie's band. Tell her. So she had just hired Stephen Bruton. So they had just been rehearsing for a few weeks. So it happened a few years later. And it turns out Bonnie was a big fan of Bruce Hornsby and The Range, and used to drive her band crazy on the bus by playing our records.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. And Bonnie Raitt's one of your fans.
Yeah, I know. That was amazing.
Very cool.
I mean, I'd only met her once before that.
And then so when the slot opened up, she remembered, or this person remembered, and that person, and they made the connection.
Yeah, well, Bruce called me, I don't know, a year later maybe, and he said, hey, man, did you get the call yet? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, Bonnie's going to call you. I said, no, I haven't heard anything. And a long time went again. I think it was another half or year after that. And she finally called and said, hey, you want to come out and audition? And I said, well, I can't audition because I've got, in the time, I don't like auditions anyway. I think they're stupid. And so I had, when she wanted to do it, I had a conflict, and I said, I can't stiff these people and blow them off to come out and audition. She says, okay, just come out and play on the record. I said, okay, great.
Holy
and I did.
Crap.
So I did. And the next day she said, so you want to join the band? And again, I thought, for 2 seconds, and I said, yeah, of course I do.
Wow. Isn't that, yeah. Holy crap. No, I'm not. Wow. That's a really great way to take a stand without taking a stand. Anybody who's into negotiating, listen to that over and over again. Play that back. I can't. That's awesome. I've done two auditions in my life. One of them worked out, and one of them was an absolute joke. And I'm not going to tell you who the artist. No, it's all good. I wouldn't ask you that on camera.
Yeah.
Cliff Richard.
I never met him because it was one of those records that was being recorded and produced here in town in Nashville. And Michael O'Mardian, who's a hell of a talent and a really nice guy and a pal, and I really like him. You know who he is, the keyboard player?
Yes, I do. He's been around a long time. I'm one of those guys that used to read, the backs of records. Yeah, right.
Well, he's a first-class guy, man. I really like him. Michael's a super talented guy. So anyway, he called me to play on this Cliff Richard record because he knows I'm kind of a fan of English, British invasion thing, and I'm a Beatle maniac. So, and Michael is just the most amazing piano player and arranger. He's one of the few guys that I've ever worked for. When he tells you what to play, 95% of the time it works because he understands arranging. He understands what instrument works in what range and does what the role of the instrument is and what the range of the instrument is. So many times people say, oh, play this. I said, well, those notes aren't even on the instrument. I can't play that. And things like that. Michael gets it, and he's a monster, and he's a hell of a nice guy. So I never got to meet Sir Cliff, no.
He was, I remember listening to that cut, Devil Woman, I think was his big one, right?
It's true. Devil Woman and It's So Funny That We Can't Talk Anymore. I love that record.
Which one is? What's the name of that one?
I think it's called We Can't Talk Anymore, or It's So Funny. It was a big hit in the 80s, and it was a really cool record, and it, used all the latest Prophet sounds, the keyboard sounds. And
Art Garfunkel.
Yeah. Excuse me. Art Garfunkel was doing a trio with Maya Sharp. I don't know if you know who she is, but we've cut some of her stuff with Bonnie. Terrific songwriter. And a guy, I'll think of his name in a minute, but they were a trio, and they were cutting some stuff. I think they did 2 albums together. And it was really interesting. I don't remember the material, but it was good. But I remember, and Art was a really nice guy. I really enjoyed interacting and talking to him. I've heard stories about him and was expecting it not to be the case because people have relayed things about him. And he was terrific, and he was down to earth, and he told me a story about how he walked from New York to California. He walked across the United States.
What do you mean? He's serious?
Yeah.
He walked across the.
He said he didn't necessarily do it all in one going. He would leave off somewhere, make a note of it, fly back home or whatever, and then he'd come back to the same spot and continue. So he's literally walked across the United States. But what the cool thing about him was, I would be in like the lounge, like pouring coffee, and I would hear the 3 of them talking. And just hearing him talk, he had that edge on his voice. He had that sound that you think, oh, that's a mic or that's EQ or this, that, or the other thing. That's him. He had that unbelievable sound. It was there. It's genuine. It's a real thing. It was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful voice. I interviewed, I'm sure you know Jeff King.
Yeah.
Jeff did a project with him, and he also had really nice things to say about him. So,
oh, good, good.
Really nice things. In fact, they were recording when 9/11 went down. So he had
oh my God.
Yeah, an interesting story there. Vince Gill.
Vince Gill. I'm trying to remember because that's a while ago. That's around 2000, I think.
Oh, that's going
I think
back.
That's 18 years ago. But I knew Vince in the South Bay in L.A. There used to be a club in Hermosa Beach called Shenanigans, and a bunch of Nashville people who we were just friends in L.A. would come into this place and sit in and just play. And we'd have certain nights where it was just that, and he was one of them. So I got to know him then, and I don't know. They just called me to play on the record, and I did. And then I think I did a TV show with him, the CMA Awards or something or other, where we played that one of the songs live. He's a great guy. What a monster talent he is. God.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody that has worked with him says he's one of the nicest, easygoing, just sweetest guys. And even in the studio when he's running the show, he's like he lets everybody do their own thing. He just hires really good people and just allows you guys to do what you do.
Yeah, he did. And if I remember correctly, I'm not sure about this, but it might have been Michael Omartian playing and producing on that too. But honestly, I don't remember.
And then last one,
that
was a long 2000. That's a long time ago. Jackson Browne.
I'll tell you where I work with Jackson Browne. Excuse me. In 1999, I get a call from Bruce Hornsby again. This, some years after, but we remained friends. When I left, I said, look, we were pals before the band, and I wanted to remain that way. So I talked to him 2 days ago. But he calls me and said, hey man, are you interested in doing this tour? We're putting together a very strange tour. The headline names are Bonnie Raitt, Shawn Colvin, Jackson Browne, and Bruce Hornsby. And we're going to have one band behind us. So that's where I worked with Shawn and Jackson. And Bruce and I were just, laughing through the entire thing and just, basically screwing around like we always used to do. So it was just more more opportunity to get, make prank phone calls and things like that. It was fun.
That's awesome. So it was a good experience. And then have you worked with him since then?
With Jackson?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I've seen him, but no, I don't think I've actually worked with him since then. No. It was, that thing was it was a strange thing because there were parts of Jackson's band, me from Bonnie's band, Bruce, and the guy who also plays organ in his band, JT, John Thomas, was in that band. So it was this, percussion, drums. There were a lot of people. David Lindley, that's right.
Oh,
David
wow.
Lindley. So it was just, it was hard. I ended up not using monitors because they could not change the monitors fast enough between songs because Sean Colvin doesn't sing loud. Bonnie does sing loud. So all of a sudden, like the sound would dramatically change from one song to another. I finally said, get this away from me. And I just listened acoustically to what was going on. And you could hear everything pouring out of everybody else's monitors anyway. But it was one of those things that on certain nights it was magic. In other nights, I thought it sort of fell flat. But it was fun. It was different. It was really different.
Just because it was so many people that you weren't like a cohesive unit or you hadn't been together. Is that pretty much right? Yeah,
that's exactly right. And that's right. And you had people trying to sing background who never sang background a day in their lives and things like that. They're always used to being the leaders. Bruce is the only one who was ever a sideman. When I met Bruce, he was playing in Sheena Easton's band. Things like
Easton, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
I know. Yeah.
You said you started as a drummer. I had a question here. Was playing guitar your original dream? How did the whole guitar thing come about?
Well, it's that day that I said, I'm going to get some drums. And my folks said, no, I was a teenager. And my folks said, no, you're not. We'll get kicked out of the apartment. So that's how, but I always loved, I like to play music. I don't necessarily just play guitar. I look at it like, the music is the language, not the guitar. And you play music. So I always was interested in guitars and drums and all kinds of stuff. So I was 15 before I got a guitar. That, it's kind of, I guess, a late bloomer. Everybody nowadays, they're virtuosos by the time they're 12. So, yeah. So anyway.
Or at least that's what their parents say.
Exactly. You should hear my boy.
I one of the guys that, if there is a meaning of virtuoso, I saw Derek Trucks down here a few years ago in the St. Pete Blues Festival, and he closed his set with an old Bob Dylan song that they do called "Down in the Flood," and that guy, I literally almost couldn't talk for 10 minutes after that. I'd never seen a performance like that in my life, and I've seen 100 shows. And
wow,
that guy is a virtuoso because he just, it's like Tiger Woods. You start playing golf when you're 5 at a high level. You can't be that unless that's reps. You need time under, to get that good.
And he's a sweet guy. You'd never know if you just saw him, in a grocery store who he was. So
who, Derek?
Yeah, he's just a nice kid.
Everybody tells me that. Everybody says that. So once you started playing, did you know right away, because your music was your thing, did you know, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do? Or was it just a hobby? When did it go from like hobby / passion to, I'm going to see what this is about for a career?
I guess after I got kicked out of college for bad grades.
Okay, so that was your plan B.
No, I never ever had a plan. I mean, when I was in high school, like I say, I didn't even get a guitar till I was a sophomore in high school, and at that point, then everything else didn't mean anything at all. But I was a good. I was studying architecture, engineering, mechanical drawing. I was really good at it. I failed trigonometry, but I went to college. Went to East Los Angeles Junior College, a 2-year community college, and failed trig again. And at that point, I realized I'm not going to be an engineer, which I didn't know if I really wanted to do that because I couldn't sit in a room for 8 hours a day. So at that point, I just said, okay, so, they told me you're not coming back next year with a D- average. So I got a job. I knocked around for a year. Meanwhile, I'm playing guitar. And then I auditioned for a band. So there, number 3 audition. I take it back. I auditioned for a band and got in it, and that was it. I never looked back. Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I've never had a plan. I just kind of follow my nose. Every time I've planned on something, it hasn't worked out. And then something I hadn't even thought about pops up. So
how much of that do you think, because I've always struggled with that about, just sort of following the universe, so to speak, or, versus pursuing stuff that pursuing something. Has that, you said you've always done that, and that's always worked out for you, I guess.
Well, I mean, the only thing I really knew is I like to play. So I would play as much as possible. And then I got the opportunity because of a band I was in. A producer heard us and liked me and the keyboard player a lot and started hiring us. So then I realized,
okay.
Oh, recording. I like doing this too. Okay. I really like this. And then at one point in my mid-20s, I started writing songs. And then you start recording at home, and me and some friends saved up our little bit of money that we had, and we bought a reel-to-reel 4-track recorder and started making our own little recordings. And I started liking that, and then I realized, I enjoy engineering. I like setting up mics and figuring out how to make things sound good or better than they already are. And so you just kind of, you're curious. Hopefully you're curious. And I've always liked other instruments. I like my bass playing. And I can kind of play keyboard parts if I need them on my stuff. So, I think you just follow your nose to something that you love. And if you love recording, then maybe you're an engineer or a producer. And if you like writing, if you like songs, maybe you'll be a good writer. Who knows? So, that's how that happened, I guess. But as far as a master plan, I never had one of those. I still don't.
I think that's great. I mean, it's just, I'm always curious. One of the things I enjoy from doing all these interviews is I get to hear everybody's story and I learn something from it. And I'm genuinely curious as to how people get from point A to point B, because there's so many different ways. And I always find it fascinating. And I learn a lot from that. And I think I need to be more like that, like how you've been, where you just sort of follow things and let them happen. As
what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for anybody else. So that's the one thing I've learned.
Yes,
is all this stuff is so subjective, and I've always thought I was a very lucky guy, and I don't know why, but I think I'm lucky, and I've had things happen for me that wouldn't happen for other people. I mean, there are a hell of a lot more, better guitar players on this planet than I am. But, you just figure out, how to put one foot in front of another and get to the next point, I guess.
Yeah, but that being said, there's you could fill in the blank. Doesn't have to be guitar player. It could be, a CEO of a company, computer coder. There's everybody, no matter how good you are, there's always a better person. That's like, going to the gym and thinking you're the strongest guy. Okay, good luck with that. No, I mean, seriously, there's always a better, but I think there's a lot, having done both of planning and not planning. I think not planning, in a way, although there may be some stress associated with that, there's a lot less stress associated with, for me, I have found it less stressful to not plan and sort of just go with what you want to do and what doors the universe sort of open for you based on that. As opposed to for me anyway, again, when I've planned, now I've set a benchmark or I've set expectations. And
that's exactly right. Yeah.
And
if you do say, well, by the time I'm this age, I'm going to do this. Well, what if you don't? Then you feel like shit.
Right. And you feel like you failed. No, but I learned from my kids, from raising my kids, not to have expectations. They sort of taught me that, and I think there's a lot of merit to that because there's a lot less stress and pressure associated with it. For me, anyway, that's the way it's been.
No, I'm with you. And it's not as haphazard as it sounds, because I think in order for that to work, by the same token, you have to spend a lot of time. You have to put the effort in, the time and the work, and get good at what you do, and get out there and do it. And I never made a living until I was 30. I mean, I worked my tail off and have until, a couple of months ago. But I worked as often as I possibly could. And like I said, I would take anything. And I was, honest to God, in my early 30s, before I started making enough money to really say, okay, I'm making a living at this. And I'd been doing it for like probably 12, 13, 14 years, But I just never thought twice. First of all, I didn't have anything else to do. Joe Puerta, who was the bass player.
Yeah, why do I know that name? He was also, he's in some other
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia, right.
Yeah. And so he's a great guy. I was really close with him because he was in that band. He was the other non-schooled guy who was in bands and did all kinds of stuff. So people would come up to him and say, Mr. Puerta, what's your advice for making it in the music business? And he said, don't have anything to fall back on. and it's true. I couldn't do anything else. So I never thought about doing anything else. So you just do what you do. And hopefully, hopefully you're starting with some kind of talent and ears and taste, and then you take it from there. I think that's how it worked for me. It's not going to work that way for everybody else.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of merit to that. I always try to learn and grow as a person, and for me, that's been a growth thing of just sort of following your nose and like you said, you can't be an idiot about it. You have to have some basic level of competency and like, okay, I have these skills and how can I apply them? But yeah, thanks for sharing that, George.
Sure.
Let me ask you that. We all, speaking of careers, everybody pays tuition and makes mistakes. And I was wondering if you'd be kind enough to maybe share one or two mistakes you might have made along the journey and what lessons you learned from them.
In general terms, I would not a particular mistake, but in general terms, sometimes I might not be the most diplomatic guy in the world and don't have, as much patience as maybe I could have. And so I'm sort of outspoken. But I'm honest with people, and I don't think I'm lying. I'm just sometimes tell people how I feel and when I shouldn't. Sure. Sometimes telling a white lie or just holding back a little can get you, like you said to your kids, show up on time and keep your mouth shut. I will learn from that even at this point. But I don't, when I look back on career moves or anything like that, I'm trying to think if there's any one or two things I could say, man, I really blew it there, and I can't really, I don't dwell on once something's done. I mean, I can't even tell you when we're on the road, I can't tell you where we played 3 nights earlier without looking at a calendar. So I don't dwell on that kind of thing too much. So I don't know. I can't think of too many that I would say that was stupid.
No, that's totally cool. I heard an interview.
I'm sure there are dozens of things. Believe me, I just can't think of them.
No, I totally get it because you mentioned football earlier. I remember hearing an interview years ago with Troy Aikman of the Cowboys, and they said, what's the most important skill a quarterback needs to have?
Amnesia.
To be effective. Yes, that was his answer, short memory.
Yeah, I've heard him say that. Yeah.
So that being said, if you can go back and give advice to your younger self, would it have been like, hey, be a little more patient or, just, That would be it. Be patient, be diplomatic, and and shut up a little more. I'm assuming that when you're saying you talk too much, it was not with other musicians. It was with like record execs or, I don't want to use the higher ups, people making decisions that had to impact you, not other musicians.
Yeah, for the most part, I think you're right. Yeah.
Because I have found it because I'm, as you'd probably not surprised, very direct. And I have found that in dealing with all the, I've spoke to 200 guys, everybody's like, hey, I really appreciate you're so straightforward. And even if they don't come out and say it, it's like you could tell. It's like, man, this guy. I like talking to this guy. I know where I stand with him, and there's no bullshit. So that's why I thought. Right. And coming out of the business world for the last 18 years, that's not the way it is necessarily in business.
No, you're right.
But it has been,
you're right, and I could, I can generally get along with anybody and hang with somebody if they're, if they're cool. It's just sometimes their musical stuff, people, I don't know. There are just times when I'm trying to see how to word this properly, and if
now all of a sudden George decides to be diplomatic. Okay, George. Go ahead.
No, I don't mean that. I just want to describe it properly. There are times when let me think about this. When it comes to actual musical decisions, I think when you hire somebody, you trust them to do what they do, and very often it doesn't happen. In the studio, I could show up for a session for somebody, and all of a sudden they're telling you, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, micromanaging almost every note you're playing. And at that point, you just have to tune them out or tell them, look, why did you hire me if you're not going to let me do what I do? If you think you can do it better, here's my guitar, let's hear it. I've done that to people. And it gets frustrating, like I say, if I had more patience. And I try, when somebody suggests something, I try it, but there are people, and not people I'm working with now, I don't mean that. I'm talking about, there are just people who, they call themselves songwriters and stuff like that, and who know everything. And most of them are not even in the business anymore, but they can drive you absolutely crazy. And I don't have, it's hard to suffer fools like that. They think they know everything about everything because they have a little budget to book some studio time and hire really great players. And what do? They go in there and try and boss them around instead of listening to them and learning and utilizing their talents and ideas. So that's what drives me nuts.
You know what? I totally get that, because when I was in Nashville 2 months ago, I told you, Rob McNelly was kind enough to invite me to a session and to hang out. So I went to the session. It was 6 to 9, 5 songs in 3 hours.
Yeah. Right.
And there were guys in there, songwriters, exactly what you're saying. And again, I'm just an outsider. I don't know anything, but this is a service business. I've paid people for services in the past. When the roof is screwed up, I don't say, I think you need to do this.
Exactly.
And I was shocked of how much of that was going on. And then there's like, if there's 2 of them, 2 songwriters, they're debating, well, should we play the note, da 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 da, or should we go da 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 da? And I'm like, again, I'm saying, you got these guys in there that are making chicken salad out of chicken shit. Why don't you ask them? No, I mean, seriously.
I've never heard that. What a great expression.
Oh, I got a bunch of them. Trust me. You hang
I like
around
it.
me.
I'm stealing that.
But I'm like, why don't you ask these guys? They just made this song, and it sounds pretty damn good. Like, first iteration of a song is like, that they hadn't even seen 30 minutes ago. I'm like, man, if they could do that, I don't know. If I were you and that was my money, I'd ask the roofer. I wouldn't I wouldn't presume, or I'd just say, hey, try it this way, try it that way. What do you guys think?
Yeah, there are ways of offering suggestions. Nobody's right about everything all the time, and certainly somebody else can come up with something that I haven't thought of. I'm not. Yeah, nobody's ever saying that's not the case.
Absolutely.
But micromanaging somebody, getting all a handful of world-class players in a room, only to tell every single one of them how to play their instrument, it's just nonsense. And that's the stuff that drives me nuts. And I can't tolerate it. And I let them know. There's a boiling point, and when I reach that boiling point, I just say, no, I don't think I said, if you think you can do better, have at it. Otherwise, I'm going to play it my way.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. When I interviewed Jerry McPherson, and one of the questions I asked Jerry was, what do you dislike most about what you do? And he said, song triage, where you get he called it. It's like, the triage. Yeah, like the triage nurse. You get a song that comes in, it's dead on the freaking gurney, and you got to breathe life into it. And it's like, and he said he hates it. And all you guys have done this. You got to get together and say, okay, the fucking paddles here, you know, we're trying to, you know, resuscitate this, no matter how many volts of electricity we give. So it's up to us to do this. You know,
well, that's what the session player's job is. And we can do it if you let us do it. I mean, I actually enjoy, you know, so many times you hear a song and it's a flat line, right?
Yeah.
And what you have to do is give it peaks and valleys, and that makes the song breathe and come to life. It could be some great lyrics where the music isn't necessarily that good, but players who play music every day can solve that end of it. Just don't get in the way, you know, just let us do it. I'm not saying don't say anything, but don't micromanage. And so many people on every level of this business, everybody I've ever worked with, often while you're playing, they're not listening to what you're playing. They're listening to what they want to hear in their head. And often what they want to hear in their head, when you play it for them, they don't like it. And it's like, well, okay, and now we have to go through this 10 times more before you're going to let us play it, right? I'm going to have to, oh, you have this idea. And at some point you have to filter your ideas. You don't verbalize everything you think of. You know, if you think you got a killer idea, fine. But everybody, when I go in the studio, especially in Nashville, everybody thinks, oh, let's break down the last chorus like it's never been done before. Every country song in the world for the last 20 years has broken down the last chorus. And they all think they're coming up with this magic. And at one point in a session one day, I just said, I'm not doing it. I was like the end of a long day, and it was song number 10. Hey, why don't we break down the last chorus? I said, you guys can break down whatever you want. I'm playing through it. I'm not doing it again. I'd already done it like 8 times on 10 songs.
Good for you, man.
At some point, you just gotta. It's just hard to accept certain things.
No, I hear you, man. Especially when it's not like, you know, you picked up a guitar yesterday, and you know you could fog a mirror. That's why you got the job. You know, I mean, you're there for certain. I mean, that's what I didn't get. It's not, you know, these were like really skilled guys.
Yep.
You know, which anybody listening, if you have extra money and you are a songwriter, and I have no vested interest in this, obviously, the best bang for your buck, the best dollar value you will ever spend is to go to Nashville, and for less than $1,000, you probably don't even need to go in there with chords many times. Just go in with your lyrics, and then these guys will make a song for you. I mean, it just blew my mind. I couldn't. It
happens all the time. Yeah, 5 songs in 3 hours. Yeah, basically done except vocal.
Yeah,
right. You overdub everything. And, you know, they just after the track's cut, they run it down again. Everybody plays more stuff, and the players here are used to it. It does get cookie cutter at times, but it's such incredible talent here.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, man. Really,
people take it for, you know, the people who live here and the writers and stuff, for a while they were taking it for granted, and it's just anyway.
No, I get it. I totally get it. And like what I was amazed at is, again, because when I just started meeting you session guys, I was shocked at how much work you do and that there's no credit given, which I don't want to open up that can of worms, because, you know, there's no upside to that for any of you guys to talk about that. But I didn't realize, not that there was no credit given, that's okay. I didn't realize how much creative work was involved on your end and no credit was given.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, if they came in,
Sometimes you listen to these demos they bring in of them sitting at their kitchen table with a cassette recorder and their acoustic guitar, and you think, oh, okay, here we go. And then it becomes something. It's turd polishing. And that, if you're going to be a session player, that's what you have to accept. That's your job, is to take something that somebody hands you and make it 15 times better than it was a half an hour ago, like you said.
This one person came in with, I want to say song lyrics, but it was more like, I don't know, the Encyclopedia Britannica. And I have no idea how it was like, seriously, it was like, you know, Lincoln's speech or Winston Churchill's speech. It was so many words, I didn't know how these guys did it. I was like, holy crap, that is like a music miracle. I didn't. It was just amazing. I don't know how the person sang it even. It was like, but wow, it was just impressive.
Wow. But then on the other hand, there are times when you just go in and with somebody who's a really good writer, and you know, some people use the same chords and the same notes and the same everything, but their stuff is really good. And that's when, you know, you just stay out of the way of a great song. You do what's needed and no more, and learn how to lay out and learn how to cut your part in half or a third or whatever. And then you walk away from those sessions going, man, this is fun. I'm glad I do this for a living instead of putting that roof on the house, you know?
I hear you, man. All righty, let's talk gear for a few minutes.
Okay.
What's your go-to guitar right now? And let's say maybe what other 2 guitars would round out your top 3?
Okay, I have 4 babies. Can I talk about 4?
Yeah, man, okay. Absolutely.
And they don't go on the road with me anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I use on the road.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Equally good, but not old and invaluable. But I have a 62 Strat.
Wow.
I have an early 70s Telly. I have a 64 Gretsch Tennessean that I have big, fat, heavy, flat wound strings on, and that I usually tune it down 2 steps to around C. And depending on the song, because I only use it for recording, so depending on the song, I'll take it down B up to C sharp or D if I need to, but it lives around C. And then I have I believe it's a 66 Epiphone Cortez acoustic guitar, small body, which is basically the same as those little body Gibsons, because the Epiphones in those days were built at the Gibson factories. There was all one company.
Sure.
And it's like a B25, I guess. And so it's my favorite by head and shoulders above any other acoustic guitar that I have, or that I just love the thing. And when you bash on it, it has this honk that, you know, it just sounds like an old Beatles record or something like that.
That's awesome. So where do you just play those in the studio?
Yeah. Or at home. Yeah. On the road, I took to using, newer guitars. Like I use cheap Mexican Strat. I have two Mexican Strats that I found one that plays and sounds as good as my 62. In 2000, my stuff got lost. When I was you know, I was using all this old stuff on the road. Anyway, Rocket Cargo lost my stuff.
Oh.
And for 5 weeks, I thought all this stuff and an old Marshall 50-watt head and a brown face bandmaster, blah, 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 mandolin, all this stuff was gone. And all I could do is look at my fingers and think, okay, at least I have those. These are just tools. They're not precious cargo as much as my hands are. So eventually it came back. But in the meantime, I bought, you know, some other stuff and just said, okay, that I learned my lesson. This is staying home from now on. So I use a wine-colored a Mexican Strat that I bought in around 2000 or so. On the road, I have some kind of a Telly that I bought for $250 at a consignment store here. I'm not sure if the body is a Telly, but it's an old Telly neck, one of those club necks, really big, which I usually hate. But I like this one, and it sounds great. What else do I use out there?
Did you have to go through like a lot of those?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know what's his name? I don't know him, but I've been told Jack Pearson plays Squires, and I said that's amazing. And I was talking to someone that's good friends, and he said, yeah, but he went through about 25 of them to find.
Well, right. When this happened to me, when my stuff went missing, I went to Nashville Used Music. And these are new guitars. They also sell new stuff, but for some reason they call the store Nashville Used Music. And I went through, I think, at least a dozen of these things, and they all sucked. And then this one had been set up, and the frets were already dressed, and I don't know what the deal was. So for, $250 out the door with a case, a bunch of cables and after tax. And it's a terrific guitar. It really is a terrific guitar. So they're out there. You don't need to spend fortunes on guitars if you don't feel like it. You just have to. But, if the status thing, so many people want old guitars and vintage, they think that's going to, and I always remind people, those vintage guitars you listened to on those old records, those were new when those records were made.
That's a good point.
Yeah, most people forget that stuff. If you're listening to a 1965 Stratocaster on a record that was made in 1966, it was a year old. The word vintage wasn't. The word wasn't even used to describe instruments in those days. So too much magic put on gear, I think. But and my favorite amps, I have two favorite amps. I have these two little Fender Pro Juniors from the 90s, early 90s. And I don't know if you know what they are, but they're 15-watt combo amp, 10-inch speaker. And then on the road, I love Dr. Z amps. And I've had a Maz Junior for 20 years. And then when this tour started, back at the beginning of 2016, I said, okay, I'm going to take these on the road. I always hesitated. And I got another one. I had him build me another one. And it sounds exactly like the other one. I mean, it's you can't hear the difference between a 20-year-old. Dr. Z is magic. The guy makes great stuff, and he's a prince of a guy. I had one problem with my first Dr. Z at a session. It went down. So my local guy couldn't fix it. He couldn't figure out what it was. So I called Mike Zamatis, I think his last name is, Dr. Z.
Yeah, I think so.
And I said, hey, man, this is I don't know what to do. He said, send it to me. He covered FedEx both ways and fixed it for free. He wouldn't let me pay him.
Crap, what a guy.
He cares about those amps so much. He doesn't want anybody to be dissatisfied on any level, and he's always been like that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I have a Maz Senior. It's just overkill.
Oh, you do?
I love it, but it's 38 watts. I can play in my bedroom. I mean, or in my office. It's just, it's sitting there like waiting to go somewhere. I don't know where.
Send it to me. I'll
you'll make good use of it.
That's exactly what I would like. Would be that one, just to have at home. One of those amps.
Yeah, it's a Maz Senior with a reverb tank. In fact,
is it a head or a combo?
No, it's a head, just a head, and then I have a.
That's perfect. That's what I want.
A 2x2. Well, if I want to sell it, honestly, and I've been thinking of it. Maybe I'll sell it. And then I have a 2x12.
Let me know.
Yeah, I will. I have a 2x12 Marshall, but it's just like. Then when I was up there, do you know John Prestia?
No.
He's Tim McGraw's guitar tech, and
you told me about
him.
You told me about
cool dude, and he sold me a really cool. It's like it's a PV Delta Blues. I think it's 30 watts. It's got like a.
Those are neat amps.
Oh my God! It's got reverb and tremolo on it, and dirt, 2 channels. So it's like, and it sounds great. It's like 18. It's from 2001, so it's got seasoning. It just sounds great. I love it.
Well, if you want to trade, if you want to do some kind of a trade, I'm kind of looking to get rid of my brown face Bandmaster. Just anyway, think about it.
All right, I will.
I'll throw in money. Yours is worth more.
And a new car.
A trip to Palm Springs.
Are there any cool stories? I mean, you got some neat vintage guitars there. Are there any cool stories behind how you got them? Like the Strat or the Tele or even the Epiphone?
I think I was 19 and I saved up and bought a 62 Strat. Went to San Francisco to play with the band I was in. Our manager lived up there and he said, "Oh, it's safe. You can leave your guitar in the van." Next morning it was gone. So we went to the music store, and this is the guitar that Neal Schon had turned in the day before. The current 62 Strat I have now. And it's the guitar he used on all, he joined Santana when he was a kid.
Yes.
And it's the stuff he used on that. And it was before Journey was Journey. So
you're kidding. So that is really interesting. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I'm trying to think about any of the other guitars. I bought the acoustic Epiphone at a pawn shop for, $150.
What color is your Strat?
It's just it's brown. I mean, it's just natural wood. I stripped it down. It used to be sunburst.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But when I got it, it looked like somebody had taken an ice pick to it and it just beat the crap out of it. And I was so young, and I didn't have any money, and the only guitar case I had was a Mustang, a Fender Mustang case from a Mustang bass I had. So the Strat wouldn't fit in it, so I sanded the Strat down, took off the finish, and shaved about 1.5 inches or 2 inches of wood off the side.
Holy crap.
I know. And that's a guitar, you know, I've played on all kinds of stuff, you know, Bonnie records and Hornsby records and all that stuff. That was the guitar I used most of the time, and it's pretty funny. You know, you do what you do.
Yeah,
like I say, it was not a vintage guitar when I did that. So
yeah, so it was you weren't thinking about, oh my God,
I didn't know any.
I'm going to
I was living at home.
Reduce the value of this moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Have you been influenced by any players that people will be surprised to hear?
Probably. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Not anybody in particular as far as a guitar player, because I always think more in terms of music as opposed to, you know, just I'm a guitar player. I like to think I'm a musician, and I love Brazilian music, and I'm always telling young people to listen to that stuff because the sense of melody and the rhythms and the chord patterns and the chord structures are non-existent in our country. People have no idea. I mean, there hadn't been anything like that on the charts since maybe the 60s, like Sergio Mendes or something like that. But you can listen. I mean, they're unbelievably great and such deep musical records, you know, recordings from the 70s. Yeah.
Hey, have you ever sold a guitar you wish you can get back?
Probably all of them. I'm trying to think. I had a excuse me again. I had back in the 80s, I had a reissue Les Paul Junior with P90s that I really wish I still had. It was yellow, TV yellow.
Wow, I love those.
It didn't play necessarily killer, and I'm not a Les Paul guy, but I like Juniors. I had a red Les Paul, and I don't regret selling it because I don't play well on a Les Paul.
Why is that?
I don't know why.
Just not your thing?
I no idea. I just don't think of stuff when I'm playing on one of those. The ideas don't come to me. I'm not comfortable. I don't like the way the strings are close to the pickups, right? You know, on the body. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I know it's, and I've bought some and I end up selling them just because I keep thinking, well, I really should have one of those in my case. Well, no, I don't use them. I'd rather. I have a guitar that's. I'm not a big 335 guy either, but I bought I work with a company called Tradition, and it's basically Korean guitars, and they sold me for very cheap, but they're not expensive anyway. They're wonderful guitar. It's a 335 knockoff, and geez, the thing plays as good as anything I've played and sounds amazing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Do you? If I had to ask you to pick your 3 desert island discs,
I would have to shoot you.
No, in no particular order, and in no particular order, and you know they could change. This could change tomorrow. Like what would that be today? What would that list be?
Okay,
today?
I saw that in your list of questions, and I put some thought into it. I'm going to cheat a little bit, but as I may have mentioned, I'm a Stones fan, and to me, if I had to pick one Stones record, it'd be "Let It Bleed."
Oh, you wouldn't be doing a disservice. Yeah, with an album.
Yeah, to me that was, you know, maybe Keith's high point. Although "Exile on Main Street," which is the follow-up, was awfully monstrous too. But it was all Keith on "Let It Bleed." That's why I like it, because there was no Mick Taylor playing really, you know, those silky smooth solos, which to me are wonderful. But I don't know how. I don't know. It just seemed like a fish out of water with the Stones. Whereas when I listen to "Let It Bleed," it's funkier. It's not as polished and smooth, and it was all Keith. I think Brian Jones played on one song because he's basically out of it and under the table for the whole album. He played slide on that acoustic ballad. Take me to the station, put me on the train. No Expectations.
Love in Vain. No, that's No Expectations wasn't on "Let It Bleed."
Are you sure?
Yeah. You're talking about.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I'm looking at.
At any rate,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Oh,
It was Give Me
that's
Shelter.
the album.
Yeah, Let It Bleed. It's a great album. Give Me Shelter. I mean, it's like one of the greatest songs ever made.
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man. Yep, great
Oh
song.
my God.
Great
The
song.
guitarist did on Monkey Man, and then Nicky Hopkins, piano player. Who
Yeah.
Nicky Hopkins, to me, was the best piano player of that era, 60s, 70s, even in the 80s. And he, to me, was, you know, he played on so many records and got no credit whatsoever. He played on Stones records. He played the piano on Back in the USSR by the Beatles. He played on a lot of Beatles stuff. They didn't credit him. He played on the Who records. They didn't credit him. he Kinks, you name it. I mean, that guy played on Sarah Vaughan records when he was a kid.
Wow, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. So he moved to Nashville, and I thought, oh, God, I'm going to, you know, this is my favorite piano player. I'm finally going to get to play with this guy. And he died like months later. It was very sad. He just was never a healthy guy. Anyway, so for this, I would say the Stones. And I'm a Beatles fan, and I can't narrow it down to one record. But I have an incredible collection of their bootlegs. Yep. And that would cover if I have thousands of bootlegs of theirs, different takes of the Beatles. I've been collecting them since about 1980. I have different takes, different mixes, different everything, songs that never were released. I mean, it's a treasure. It really is. And I still hear things that I've never heard before. I put on Amazon Music the other day, and all of a sudden, I think it was a version of I Am the Walrus that I'd never heard, a completely different vocal. I mean, I was amazed. So I know that's cheating. It's not one album.
No, that's
I can't.
You know what? Did you used to? I have so much fond memories, and I know I sound old, of buying bootleg, of just finding a bootleg even in the bins and then buying it. I always felt like I got let in on some secret that nobody knew about.
That's exactly right, because most people don't even know about it. And I used to, when we would tour Europe, I would go into little record shops, and you'd sort of, record stores, you couldn't come out flat out right away. You had to kind of establish that you're in there shopping, and that, like in Europe, you know, you talk to the guy, and, oh, you're American. What are you doing here? Oh, we're playing tonight at such and such. Oh, fantastic. And then they'd open up and they'd say, hey, by the way, you got any bootlegs? And I've got Stones bootlegs, but a lot of Beatles. So anyway, that's it. And then for my third, because I do like world music so much, and I love Afro-Cuban music, I love Latin music, I love African music, I love Brazilian music, I would say one of two albums by Paul Simon, either Graceland or Rhythm of the Saints.
Yeah, those are
if I only had the three kind of things to listen to, and I was going to be alone on that island. How long am I on that island? You didn't say how long.
Depends how well you've behaved.
Okay. So that might be it right there. Although there's so much, you know, you probably expected me to pull out some blues guys or something like that.
No, you said that your tastes. No, not really, because you said you're into music, so I didn't. I honestly didn't. What's something that you've learned about yourself along this journey that you've been on through your career?
I think in a way I've not necessarily just because of music, but just life in general. But music is certainly, you know, the biggest part of my life. I don't know. I guess part of me is a bit cynical, and then part of me is overly optimistic. And they sort of balance each other pretty well, but there's still times in life I expect people to do the right thing and they don't. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I've learned about myself, is that, you know, I guess maybe when you're a kid, they teach you all the golden rule and, you know, America is this, America is that. People right and wrong. My parents instilled in me a really strong sense of right and wrong. And I have a hard time when I see people doing bad things for greedy reasons. I really do. It still bothers me. I put on the news and I see what's going on in the world and in our government, and it just pisses me off to no end. And that's what I've learned about myself, is that maybe I need to realize that maybe the world is harsher than I think it is, and at my age I should have learned it by now. And I do know that. But I still expect I still am surprised when I see people doing the things they do. I guess that's what it is, because to me, life isn't as difficult as people make it. Just calm down and relax. There's a lot of nice stuff, good people out there. There's good food. There's good booze. You know, it's not as difficult as people make it, but those people make it rough for everybody else.
You know, one of my best friends, a guy named Chris Chico. Chris, if you're listening, shout out to you. I appreciate everything that you've given me. But I used to get frustrated by stuff like that. And I'm not saying I don't anymore, but he made a comment to me one time and it really helped me out. He said, Craig, you expect people to act like you. And when it comes down to it, you have no right to do that. And I said, you know, you are 100% right.
Yeah.
And
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And it really helped me because it allowed me to, you know, it was like, I mean, this is kind of a weird story, but it was very similar. I got married, my first marriage when I was very young. And I was upset because my wife wouldn't behave in a certain way or act in a certain way. And when I realized I had no right to, that's who she is. And I said, man, I really have no right to expect her. I mean, maybe there's things I do that, hard as it is to believe, maybe there's things I do that she doesn't like, you know? And then I realized, as weird as that would sound, and I was cool with it. And I was like, you know what? This is just not a fit. And that's totally cool. So yeah. I really get what you're saying, but that helped me a lot when I stopped, again, letting go of expectations. Boom. It really has helped me. It just, because as I've gotten older, I want to have less stress. And I realize that a lot of that is up to me. So I've tried to find out little hacks, as they call it now, you know, to not bring it on me. You know, if something shit happens, you got to deal with it, fine. But I'm not going to be I don't want to be responsible for it to the extent.
Well, good for you. Yeah. I try and tell myself that. I don't expect anybody to think like me. I know that. I don't expect people to agree with me because there's always more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
So I'm politically one way, but I completely get people on the opposite side politically. What I don't like is doing bad things and using the politics to hurt people or not provide for people who can't provide for themselves. That drives me nuts. Anyway, that's the kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. I welcome dialogue with people I disagree with, as long as they're respectful and polite and knowledgeable. That's what life is about. I think that's a good thing. But yeah, you're right. I need to stop expecting people to. It's like when I was young and I was taught defensive driving a few times at some classes.
Sure.
And they say, the only way to get through if you're going to drive and drive safely, expect everybody else to do the wrong thing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's true. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't get in car accidents. I don't have fender benders. It was ingrained. And it's really true. And if you lower your expectations that much, you can be happy. I guess you find that balance of lowering the bar and then.
Well, it's not just lowering the bar. It's just not having because like when you have a strong sense of justice, which it sounds like you have, I have that of right and wrong, and you certainly you have this thing like this is the way things should be. Yeah, but that's not everybody else's problem. When it comes down to it, that's the way things should be in my head. And even if, that is everybody's in a different mood and sometimes people are just having a bet, whatever. And I've just, for me, when I would let that shit go, I just got a lot less stress in my life. And I've just really tried to focus, like since I hit 50, on really, minimizing stress. For me, that's just been a real important thing. And it's
absolutely same here. 15, 20 years ago, I started doing that same thing. And I try not to expose myself to people who drive me nuts.
No, I hear you, man.
No, you're absolutely right. And I need to keep that in mind. I'm glad you, glad to bring. But, as we get older, we realize, wow, okay, when you're young, you put up with stuff, you put up with stress, you put up with certain people, because you are trying to find your way and you're trying to get somewhere. And then I think when you start to get to be our age, you realize, okay, there's more than, okay, I've done that. Now I have to reap the benefits and enjoy life and enjoy the moments. And those little moments are worth, enjoying.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Biggest business or personal win?
Biggest business or personal win? Let's see. Well, I think as far as business, the best thing that ever happened to me is this gig with Bonnie Raitt, if that counts as an answer to your question.
I would say so.
I mean, it's been 25 years at playing music I really like. I really like the music, and it's like we talked about, all this musical variety, all this stuff I listen to. It's the only gig in the world I could play those styles with, because with Bonnie, we play reggae music. We've cut African songs. Excuse me. We've cut Celtic stuff. I mean, it's all over the place. It's R&B, it's pop, and so that is a big one, and it's it's a long time. 25 years, a hell of a good thing that's happened to me. Yeah,
awesome. It's incredible. I'm happy for you, man. That's great. And hey, I'm sure Bonnie is really happy too, because she's not shy of attracting talent and people that want to tour with us. So you're doing whatever you're doing it all right. So,
oh well.
Or your level of dysfunction is acceptable within her range.
I think that's a little closer. Yeah. I'm able to hide.
One of those two.
I cloak well.
Yeah, there you go. You have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Photography. I really like taking pictures. When we're on the road, I go out every day, and take pictures. And I like to go on vacations to places that are photogenic. Yeah, I take way too many pictures, but that's how you get the good ones, because I'm every picture is not a gem.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm really into it. And if you go to my Instagram account, that's what it's all about. You're rare to find a picture of me or a guitar or anything on there.
That's cool.
It's all about places I've been.
I'm going to go to your Instagram account because I love photography. I love street photography. I love.
That's basically what I do, like stuff in the buildings. I love architecture.
Well, you studied mechanical drawing, so that makes a lot of sense.
And architecture, yeah. It's just that damn trigonometry.
But I mean, the thing is with trigonometry, I took trig. I was like a math guy, but now in retrospect, like, when are you going to, need to figure out the cosine of whatever? I mean, seriously.
To this day, I don't know what trigonometry is. And I'm not making excuses for myself, because I was really good at math without trying up until that point. In high school, in my senior year, I failed trig. 3/4 of that class failed because we had a crap teacher. Went to college, same thing. 3/4 of that class failed because of a crap teacher. They would just come in and sit there. They wouldn't talk to us. I still don't even know what you do with trigonometry, what a cosine is. And I took it twice.
Yeah, it doesn't make you a bad person. Trust me. Nobody. I mean,
I've been carrying this burden all my life, Craig.
No, let it go, George. Let it go.
Okay. All right. If anything comes out of this interview, it's going to be my letting trigonometry
go.
Yeah.
Finally, that's right, man. What is the nice?
That's that guy. Look, he's a decent guitar player, but I think he failed trig twice. So people on the streets.
People on the streets. Yeah, it's a burden. What is you've probably been all over the world several times. Is there like a favorite place or a couple of favorite places?
I do like travel. I really do. I really like the UK.
Really?
There's something about the UK that knocks me out, and all of old Europe compared to the United States. As an architecture, because I was into it when I was a kid, it drives me crazy that a 60-year-old building is ancient in this country. When you go over there, first I went to Europe, I was staying in hotels that were 500 years old. Yeah. And I'm thinking, my God, this is a museum. This isn't my hotel room. Yeah. And I just love it. And I love the way they UK especially, England, the way they have planned that country and those cities out, those villages and the green compared to the cities. And Very conscious about it. Developers don't go in there and tear down stuff and build 4 buildings where there was 1 last year. They don't do any of that crap like we do here. It's all about the dollar here. And over there, they keep the stuff intact for the most part. And I really like it. And I love going to those old villages, and people living in these places the same way they did 400 years ago, except they have Wi-Fi now.
Well, that being said, the roads there, they're not, you got to go 20 miles. You plan on an hour and a half, man.
Yeah. And no, it's absolutely true. It's really crowded. And I've driven some of those roads where you can barely get one little bitty car down some of those roads. Like I drove through Cornwall, and it's scary as hell. And literally got back to the bed and breakfast, and there was foliage in both sides of the car, the door handles and stuff.
Yeah, it's tight, man. Really tight there. My
wife is from there. Oh, she is?
Yeah, wow. And like you just said, like the church where she was like christened in, I think it was like 20 AD or something, like just in her little town. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Isn't that amazing? What town do you remember?
Yeah, she's grew up in a little town called Dunstable, which is about 30 miles northwest of London. It's in Bedfordshire. It's not far from Luton, which people kind of know. It's like an industrial town.
Here's a funny musical thing. Well, it's a blues thing. Go and Google Maps or whatever maps you use. Go to the UK and put Little Milton in.
I will.
There's a village called Milton, and then there's Little Milton.
Little Milton. That's cool.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
In the UK, I'll do that. Anything you're trying to improve on now, whether like deliberately, whether it's musically or personally or anything else? Besides letting go of the trig thing?
I think I'm going to go back to school and take trig.
Trig. I just want to get good in math.
I want to get good at that. I know I'm going to need it one day on a session.
Absolutely.
You know what? I guess we're all hopefully on the road to being better every day at whatever it is we do. So when I try and play, I sit down and pick up a guitar. I try and play something I haven't played before, or learn a new chord, or learn a new position, or just do something. And like I say, you're trying to be more tolerant of others, and all those people who aren't me out there. I have to be tolerant of them.
Is that hard?
And
sorry. Okay. Just what?
No, I just try and see things other people's point of view, because they're as valid as mine is. So
you mentioned that, and I'm maybe curious about that. Is it hard when you're on a session, for example, that you don't, go back to one of your top 40 licks that you have? That's got to be hard, I'd imagine.
So I always tell people, I got my riff I'm going to play. Yeah, it is very hard, especially to me, you come up with your best stuff when you're playing a great song. And when you're not playing a great song, because a great song will dictate what you play. There are so many times when they say take a solo, and I listen to the melody real close, and I basically play a guitar version of the melody they sang. And writers love that, and for good reason, because if they put time into writing a great melody, why not capitalize on it? Why not use it and refer to it? Not that I'm going to play it note for note, but that's the way you get away from playing cliches. I really go out of my way not to play cliches. I can't stand musical cliches. I can't stand when people take something verbatim, note for note, from somebody else's song or record recording and use it. And it drives me nuts. I think, why wouldn't you just go the extra 5 feet and come up with something of your own rather than just take somebody else's riff? So I really do try and not play cliches. Obviously, I'm going to repeat myself, because we all do, and and we all borrow from other people. But the note for note thing and just the cliche thing, I really try and avoid.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult.
It is. It is hard to do, but you can sort of do a tip of the hat towards somebody without necessarily taking their note for note musical passage.
I'm going to ask you two more questions, and I really appreciate all your time and candor.
Sure.
If you can go back in time and do one thing differently, either business or personally, is there one thing you do different?
You know, when I look back at when you're a kid, you do things to other kids that aren't necessarily cool, and we all do it, and we're all on both sides of it, I think, at one point or another. And there are just things, without getting into details, that I wish I wouldn't have done.
Sure.
Not a lot, just wish I wouldn't have.
Well, that's noble of you.
Because then you realize, huh?
That's noble of you.
Well, you realize, you look back at it and say, God, that really hurt. That I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't cool. I mean, I did something for laughs that wasn't really funny, and to the person who was the victim. So,
you know what? I had a couple of people like on Facebook that I went to high school or I grew up with that friended me, and I actually reached out to them and apologized for bad behavior.
Wow.
Yeah, and I felt good about that because
man, that's not easy to do. Most people are not able to do that.
No, it felt great. I felt horrible about it, so I felt much better, and I was very grateful that they were all very nice about it. And they said, "Oh, I mean, because look, no one's going to sleep at night thinking about Craig Garber. That's the reality of it, and I know that. But I did it for me, not for them. If they got something out of it, great. But I just wanted to unload and just get it off because I felt shitty about it, So.
Well, yeah, that's because we grow up and we realize we make mistakes, and it's nice to try and right the wrongs. So
yeah, basically,
good for you. Good for you.
Well, yeah, I never have a problem apologizing. I mean, even to my kids, I've always I've always been pretty good about that. Last question, George. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years?
Last 10 years. That'd be 2008.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go 11, you can.
I didn't know.
Or 8 or 9.
I'm using trig here, so I think it's 2006. Carry the 18. Let's see. I just think I've slowed down. I've mellowed. I don't know how much has changed. Honestly, I guess you could ask friends and family. They could probably be more accurate about it. Excuse me. But I think I just appreciate, like we were saying earlier before, I appreciate the moments, all those things you work to have that aren't music. You put all your time into your work, whether you're a musician or you're a roofer or a dock worker. You work to provide, you work to accomplish certain things, but part of it is accomplishing, some of the things you can do without working, the things you do when you're not working. And I really appreciate that now. I appreciate the travel. I appreciate seeing how other people live in other countries. I've always done that, though, since I've traveled overseas. I've always enjoyed that. But I really do. I'm now able to sit down and say, I don't have to do anything right now. I'm just going to sit here and look out the window for 15 minutes and watch the squirrels and watch the birds. And I think before I couldn't appreciate that much. I don't think, that's one of the things that comes with age, it seems to me, is that you're allowed to take a few minutes off and have a cup of coffee and not do anything.
Good for you, man. That's good. Anytime you can get better feelings in your head, man, or in your heart, that's always a good thing, So good for you.
I guess it's it's a certain form of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh crap! Where you never mind.
Well, hey, man, listen, I can't thank you enough for your time. Let me tell people where to find you. First of all, it's George Marinelli. See him on tour with Bonnie. Go to BonnieRaitt.com, and Bonnie spells her last name R-A-I-T-T. They're doing a major tour rolling out in March across the United States. Are you guys doing Europe and the rest of the world, or just U.S. right now?
It looks like we're going to Europe in late summer, and I can't say where or when.
Awesome.
First of all, I don't know. Second of all, they want us to not say anything about it.
There you go. BonnieRaitt.com. There are a lot of shows opening for James Taylor. That's got to be a pretty good bang for your buck, Bonnie and James. And you could check out George on Instagram and on Twitter. It's just his name, George Marinelli. I'll spell it for you. George, you can figure out on your own. Marinelli is Marinelli. Man, I really appreciate your patience and your time, and I appreciate you speaking with me, especially since you're sick. Anything? Oh, and George's going to have an EP coming out this year, too. I'm sorry, I forgot that. So
that's true. And my other albums are available all over, CD Baby, Amazon, all that stuff.
Good, and check him out. There's really good music on there. He's a very good writer.
Oh, thank you.
Any final words of wisdom?
No, I have no wisdom left.
Man, well, you're an awesome guy. I'm really glad we got the chance to talk, and I'm glad that we connected with each other in our universes now, so that's a good thing.
Well, likewise, Greg. This was really, really fun. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again to George Marinelli for spending time with us. Check out George, definitely on tour with Bonnie. You'll be really happy. You don't get to play guitar with Bonnie Raitt for 25 years because you're sort of so-so at it. Anyway, go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes along with some cool stuff we're rolling out. Be nice, go play a guitar, and most important, have some fun. We didn't get any do-overs here. So till next time, peace and love, everybody, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.